Congressman Adrian and I are going to have a wrestling match. If you had to pick a winner, who would it be?
Oh, boy.
Be careful. Be careful.
Well,
you would pick Adrian.
It's going to be a long match, so we'll have to pick winners through the first, second, and third round. But
there you go. That's a good old West Texas answer right there, Congressman. I do love San Angelo, by the way.
Well, it's a great place. To be fair, I've never seen either of you wrestle, so I really don't have an informed opinion.
All right, well, you will hear about this in coming months and place your bets. And so it'll be quite a time. And on to things. Congressman, thanks for joining us this morning. Let's address President Trump and these 6 Democrats, and Trump calling about sedition and maybe possibly hanging, and all this kind of stuff. And in the military, of course, you're a colonel, full bird colonel. And your thoughts about all of this?
Well, the statement that Senator Slotkin, the video that they made, 2 Democrat senators, multiple Democrat House members who served in the military or served in national security agencies like the CIA and others, it's just terrible. I mean, I'm so disappointed, to say the least, to hear them talking about openly disobeying orders. Be specific. Which orders are you talking about, and which orders are you pointing to that you think are illegal or unconstitutional? Because I can tell you in 2.5 decades of serving in the Air Force, being a commander, issuing my own commands, and following those of superior commanders, I never saw, not a single time, not even close, an illegal order. Not even close. And we study this. I mean, I studied it at the Air Force Academy for 4 years. We continued to study it at war colleges. It is so rare, and we did study tragic events that happened in our military, but we learned from those and never came even close to being around something like that. So for them to suggest that there somehow is now today the opportunity for our military to disobey what they are calling illegal orders, to demand that they disobey these orders, it's anarchy. It is completely unjustified. These are the same people who are calling for the refusal of allowing ICE and other federal entities into cities. These are the same people who are calling for the doxing of ICE agents. These are the same people who deconstructed the rule of law at our southern border for 4 years. So, no, I don't want to see them hanged or anything like that. I think the press secretary cleared that up. I don't agree with that, but what I do agree with is that they pushed some buttons here and are sowing discourse and dissension in our military. How unprofessional is that? It just is so disappointing.
You know, it's one thing, go back to Vietnam, Lieutenant William Calley, if he orders you to shoot civilians, then, that's certainly an order you would not want to follow.
That's right. And that's exactly the case study that cadets and midshipmen and all of our military professionals study right now. I mean, we go back to Vietnam. We go back to instances in World War II. But for them to suggest that something like that is going on right now, it's just insane. It makes me so mad, especially when at this point in time when we're trying to turn the temperature down, that they would once again stoke these fires of dissension and discourse and politicize our military in a way. You know, I spent my entire career in uniform, largely in a very apolitical place, because our commanders did a nice job of saying, we're going to follow the orders. By the way, I didn't always agree with the politics. I mean, I served under Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. You better believe I had disagreement, but they were still the commander-in-chief, and we still had a chain of command, and the Uniform Code of Military Justice was very clear that you are to follow the orders, that my duty was to an oath of the protect the Constitution and not to a political party, and now they are basically changing that, and that's what's so disappointing.
And these 6 people have military experience. They should know this. So it seems to me they're just grandstanding and coming up with anything they can to bring down Donald Trump in our great country.
That's exactly right. You nailed it on the head. They just can't stand Donald Trump and the progress, the things he's done to overturn the deep state, to put transparency in there. I mean, name me one person in our country that agrees with everything that any president does. There's not. That does not exist. But what they are doing is so anarchic, and it's very disappointing. And it is eroding the institution that's so important and the one that should have the most trust, and that's the military.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Texas, this great sovereign state of ours, the best state in the union, of course, as we all know. Congressman, you had a bill, and this bill is now passed in the House to unlock domestic liquefied natural gas. Tell us about this. This is a big deal.
Well, it sure is, and this was a promise I made 6 years ago when I started campaigning to say I would represent the Permian Basin and represent the interests of our constituents. We had an assault on LNG. President Biden banned LNG. President Biden said he would kill fossil fuels. And so once again, I've passed a very good piece of legislation, bipartisan, with double-digit Democrats supporting it, and that's a very key piece that cuts the red tape and it expedites the approval process for us to export LNG to our partners and allies. And you think about Ukraine, you think about our allies in Asia, including Japan and Korea, who I've met with their prime ministers and their leaders, and they have said that they want more U.S. LNG, and we are delivering on it. That passed yesterday. We hope the Senate will take it up, and I'm hopeful that it will pass in a bipartisan manner in the Senate, and we can sign this into law.
17 away from 8 o'clock, Congressman August Pfluger on KWEL AM 1070 and FM 107.1. I'm Craig Anderson. Adrian's with us. Lisa Kay is with us. And on to Texas things here, a little bit more on the regional side of things, but redistricting in Texas now. We have that 3-panel judge in El Paso ruling against redistricting, so it goes immediately down to the U.S. Supreme Court. And nobody can predict what's going to happen there, but do you have any thoughts?
Well, the maps were drawn. We've been redistricted. My new district would go from Odessa all the way to North Austin, believe it or not, 370 miles east to west. But the current state of play is that there was an injunction put into these maps. I mean, we're in the middle of the filing period right now, where I have filed for re-election and am proud to do so, but that closes on December 8th, so just a couple of weeks from now. And this 3-panel judge ruled, by the way, with a Trump appointee judge being one of the ruling voices here to say that the map needs to be stopped. The Reagan-appointed judge, believe it or not, absolutely excoriated the Trump-appointed judge because he said that the argument wouldn't hold up, that it was done appropriately. So I think that seems to be what they are going to litigate and appeal at the Supreme Court. We're hopeful that the Supreme Court will put a stay on the maps and that we can go forward, because there's a lot at stake here, including timelines that could potentially be moved, and obviously we want to avoid that. Our primary is the first Tuesday in March. We want to keep that timeline, and we want to keep this process moving forward. So more to follow. We will keep you up to date. I think on the merits, this case seems to be headed towards a Supreme Court stay. There's a lot going on in this world. We can talk about it at another time, but in the terms of redistricting, it appears that Texas is at least in a good position, but not this recent decision was not what we expected.
All right, 14 away from 8. Any thoughts on the governor and, of course, what he is doing against CARE?
You know, I think that's a good example. Another example of Texas just leading the way, and I really believe that he's continuing to lead us in a good position there. So not a whole lot of thoughts on that. I will say that there's a lot of things going on with the reimbursement to Texas, with health care, with things that we expect money to flow from the federal government, and we're working with the governor in the office there to make sure that it gets to rural West Texas, and that we can have those benefits delivered.
And the big issues facing us in West Texas, of course, always will be energy, and the price of oil down this morning, $57.83. Now, is that a result of drill, baby, drill? Are we drilling too much? And of course, people love to have lower prices at the gas pump and everything. So it seems to me to be kind of a conundrum.
Yeah, it's obviously we're going through a tough time and a little bit of a cycle where pricing is not what we want it to be. This is exactly why I brought 50-plus colleagues to the Permian Basin, congressmen and women from all over the country, to let them see how tough it is, and that government doesn't set the price, but we certainly set the regulatory environment, and that the 65 minimum to 85 belt of pricing really benefits our country, that's the sweet spot for low inflation, that's the sweet spot to continue drilling. And we've been working with the administration to make sure that they understand how important it is just to message on that, because, we know how hard everyone in the Permian Basin works. You will not find a better advocate than me. And I brought Maria Bartiromo out to the Permian Basin. She did a 3-part series on exactly this issue. But it is a tough time right now, and we're going to get past that. Prices will right themselves, but this is part of the education that I'm doing with all of my colleagues and the Department of Energy on a daily basis.
And oil field theft is a big issue, too. We had Wayne Christian, Texas Railroad Commissioner Wayne Christian, yesterday, and Wayne telling us the cartels could be involved with all of this, in fact, are. Now, we've had Victor Avila on the radio with us, too, and I believe he's in the Trump administration. He pointed out cartels are active out here in the Permian Basin, and Commissioner Christian says, bring in the National Guard, oil field theft and everything. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, we certainly need more resources, law enforcement and otherwise, to protect against it. In recent discussions with some of the bigger companies, it has become a bigger problem. So I'm glad to hear, and it's no surprise that Commissioner Christian and all of our railroad commissioners would be looking at that and obviously trying to prevent that and working with the companies. So it's something that we've been working with some of the law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, for quite a while to really understand the scope of it. But we have to get back to a place of law and order. We have to get back to a place where all of these companies have a certainty that the government is working with them to prevent it.
And I know, Congressman, that you voted to release the Epstein files. Some people may say, enough is enough of these Epstein files already, but do we have any idea at all when these things might be released?
Well, I think it's imminent. And oh, by the way, Jim Jordan, who I brought to Midland just a year ago, has been releasing many pieces and parts in documents that he has subpoenaed along with Jamie Comer for over a year now. So that's been happening. The bill wasn't perfect. I obviously fight for transparency. Where was Biden for 4 years? Why was this such an emergency now when Trump became president? Why didn't they do anything when they had the ability to do that? So we actually did. There were problems with the bill, including making sure that the victims, who I met with this week, I met with several victims. It's heartbreaking. We don't want their names to be released if they want to be protected. Number two, if there are innocent people whose names might be on a file, then the due process needs to protect them as well. But the fact is that we voted on this. We expect these documents will be released. They need to be handled with care, most importantly to protect the victims and the innocent. But our country deserves to know, and that's why I voted for it. We deserve to know what happened. We deserve to have transparency, and we need to put some respect and trust back into the institutions, which is exactly why the Speaker of the House, myself, and others pushed to get this done in the right way.
All right, Congressman Pfluger, we will let it go at that. We appreciate your time. Thanks for the work you do, too, by the way, representing the greatest district in the entire United States of America. That's a pretty cool thing to be able to say you represent all of us.
It is a very cool thing. I'm going to walk up to the Capitol momentarily to vote. We're going to vote on an anti-socialism bill, which I guess if you live in New York City, you believe in socialism. But, what I'm really going to be thinking about, and I hope everybody will just take a pause away from politics and from the divisiveness in our country as we approach Thanksgiving. I'll be spending time with my family, thankful for the rain that we've had in our area in the last couple of days. And really kind of just trying to think about all the wonderful things that we have in this country, that we are so blessed to live here, and that how important it is when our early ancestors settled this great country, that one of the first things they did was give thanks. And they took time to be thankful, to have gratitude, to thank God for the blessings that we have. So I will certainly be doing that, and I hope everybody can maybe turn the TV off and get away from the political divisiveness, to spend time with family and to really think about the things that are important. And you better believe that I'm going to be doing that next week. And I love this holiday because it symbolizes what it means to be an American, and that is gratitude, that we live in the greatest country, and I am so honored to represent the greatest district in that country. God bless.
All right, Congressman Pfluger, thanks. Have a good day.